Okay, I'm going to try to set mine up.
We're live. Staci here and Megan. It's our first live ever, so bear with us while we are getting it all dialed. If you're joining us, let us know where you're arriving from in the comments. I am in Austin, Texas. Megan is in...
I'm in Houston, Texas.
And it is pouring right now, which sometimes happens in business and life too. When it rains, it pours. And then how do we integrate it all and manage ourselves while things feel a little bit dysregulated? That's what we're going to talk about today. I have organized to scale 36 businesses in 36 months. I have done over 50 businesses, have worked with lots of different personalities, visionary leaders, so leaders who are more of the idea folks, and then integrators, the wind beneath their wings, if you will, the chief operating officers who support them, and all different personality types. And what I've learned in doing all of this is that companies are really just communities, and communities are made up of a bunch of different individuals. And the first individuals that we have to learn to organize and scale is ourselves. And when we find that inside of our teams, inside of our businesses, inside of our organizations, we are not content with some of the results, sometimes we have to look in the mirror. And sometimes when we look in the mirror, what we find is that as leaders, we have a dysregulated nervous system, and that we aren't able to bring all of our faculties to the decisions that we need to make in our day-to-day. And along that journey, Megan and I became fast friends. We met in 2018. And what I realized was that I think we've all heard this, that 90% of our mind, or 10% of our mind, is conscious and 90% is subconscious. And so I jokingly say, who's controlling my human? Because if I'm not aware of this, who's controlling it? And so Megan and I have done different deep dives on that. And so maybe you want to talk to kind of what is the 90%, and like, how do we integrate the part of us that is making a lot of decisions?
Yeah. So our nervous system is known as our self-protection. It's like our self-protector. It's the things that our body and our mind automatically do. And we have something internally that looks out into our environment and looks to see, is it safe? Is it dangerous? Is it life-threatening? And so it's always scanning our environment. This is what neuroception does, and it's part of our nervous system. And it's also looking internally. Is this safe? What I'm thinking, what I'm believing, how my body is responding right now. So like how we're breathing. If we are in a situation where we're not really in a life-threatening situation, but our thoughts are telling us something different, and our body is also showing us something different, our body's going to respond to that. Heart's going to beat faster. Breathing's going to become a little more shallow and short. You're probably going to breathe heavier. And so our nervous system, it's on our side. It's helping us. It's protecting us. However, it doesn't always feel like it's protecting us at times. And so once you have that understanding of, this is a really important body system, it's in control of 90 to 95% of what we do. You want to become friends with it, and you want to see how you can maximize your nervous system to work for you in a optimized way. And so one thing I will mention is that this is also referred to as our subconscious mind. Our body is our subconscious mind. And so, again, the things that your body's doing naturally, breathing, circulating blood, producing different hormones, thinking different thoughts. We can't always control what we're thinking. It just happens automatically. However, we can start to rewire our subconscious mind, feel safe in our body with how we're treating our body, have different self-regulation tools to show the body that we're not in any danger, that we're in fact more in safety and in safe situations than we are in danger or life-threatening situations.
I heard this quote somewhere, and I think I read it in Carolyn Miss's book, The Anatomy of Spirit, but she talks about how our biography becomes our biology. And I'm curious, like with all of the wisdom you know about the nervous system, and I think of this like in a scenario, you're building a, 7, 8, 9-figure business. You are working really, really hard, driving hard. Sometimes you don't even know you have a nervous system. You're just like, we overpower certain parts, you just push through because we have client demands, we have financial demands, we have different things. And what kind of impact, like if our biography becomes our biology, and as visionary leaders or entrepreneurs and we're hard charging, how much of overriding what our body needs shapes our health and then has a ripple effect in the work that you do too?
Yeah. Everything shapes your health. Everything shapes your health. So if you are, I remember when I first started my business, and you probably were like this too, Staci, there was so much excitement. There was so much vision and like the why was there of like why you're doing it. Sometimes that gets foggy as you're going through it. But sometimes like when you're in it, it can actually be a trauma response. Like the pushing through, the burning out your body, even like the high of like that feeling, I want the next win. I want the next goal. It feels good. It's like, I don't know how to operate in any other way. And this truly does impact your health. We have different, we are supposed to restore at certain times of the day, night, especially at night. We're supposed to restore in different seasons. This is why, like, a lot of times for me in winter, I am not like, let's go, let's go, let's go. My seasons are like spring and fall. My energy is like, woo, let's go. I feel it. And so if you look at it like that, like if we can really honor the systems and the routines that we have, that's going to help your health tremendously. But I think that a lot of people forget to do that. They don't know how to slow down. There's the belief of if I slow down, everything's going to fall apart. And they don't know how to operate any other way. So it's what's comfortable, it's what's normal, it's what they're good at.
Yeah.
And it ends up turning into, for some people, a big health crisis because they're burning their body out.
Yeah. I see this in a lot of the work that I do, and I've even experienced it personally, where you just push and push and push and push. And I think anybody who's a high achiever can relate to this, where you just push and push and push. And then you reach this point where enough is enough. Like, I cannot keep operating like this. And it could be a health crisis. It could be a financial crisis. It could be a family crisis. It could be something. And you have to make a change. But sometimes it's really challenging to make that change because to what you said is, if I slow down, then I won't achieve anymore, or I won't succeed anymore. And so how do we co-create with our nervous system to calm ourselves down, to say, no, that's not actually true. You can be more productive if you have a more integrated nervous system. Like, how do we get ourselves to believe that?
So the first thing I would say is, like you said, you have to be aware of what the internal dialogue is. You have to be aware of what your blocks are. The other thing I would say is you have to practice self-regulating tools, how you're starting your day, how you start your morning, how you breathe is so important. And I don't just mean the sexy breath work, which is very trendy right now. And I kind of fell into that too. Like, oh my gosh, breath work, it's so amazing. But literally it's how you're breathing right now. Like everyone in the audience who's listening, like, how are you breathing? That right there, like if you're breathing short and shallow, your body doesn't think it's safe. And you're safe right now. You're watching a live.
Yeah.
So I would say if you can just really notice the two things, how is my body? Can I breathe more deeper? Can I breathe from my belly to my rib cage? Breathe in. And then the second part should be your chest. So like breathing in. Your chest shouldn't even, your shoulders shouldn't even move that much. And then exhale. And if you notice, like I'm going to do this as we're having this live, like just breathing. And then paying attention to the internal dialogue. Are the thoughts of urgency? Are they of panic? Are they, of an emotion like frustration, or you're irritated? If you can start to be in control or notice what those thoughts are, the first step is calming that body down with your breath. Right there, then you have the ability to look at what you're thinking in a different way, different perspective, and view it from a different lens. Like, okay, what's another way to do this? What else is possible? That's like one of the best questions you can ask yourself. What else is possible? But it's hard to get the answer if your body is tense, tight, and you're not like, it's like you're not letting anything come in, any wisdom to come in, any connection to your intuition. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. I mean, for me, because I do this, I feel like I can resonate. I remember when you first asked me, like in one of your text messages to me, like, how are you breathing? And I was like, I don't even know if I was breathing today. And you're like, you'd be dead if you weren't breathing. I'm like, but sometimes I wasn't paying attention. I'm like, I don't even know if I was breathing or how I was breathing. And even like that simple, it's the thing that's keeping me alive. One of the things that's keeping me alive that I'm not necessarily paying attention to. So what do you think would be some of the signals that somebody is not listening to their bodies and they're in that push grind mode?
Yeah. So this is, whenever you're in the push grind mode, you're usually in and it depends, you're not always dysregulated when you're in a push grind mode.
Okay, I think that's important to double tap on, because I know that type A personalities drive hard. When we say not to push, like that gives me a panic attack. I'm like, I have to set a goal. I have to push hard. I have to achieve it. That gives me a lot of significance and value, and I enjoy it. I enjoy the challenge. So hearing you say that I'm not dysregulated if I do that is comforting.
Yeah, I think intention is everything, and it's how you're treating your body. So I want to go back to that piece. Remind me if I forget, because I can go off on a tangent.
Yeah.
But if someone is, let's just say for a scenario, if someone is in a push grind mode and they are dysregulated, primarily in a sympathetic state, which is known as fight flight. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of that, fight flight state. This is when your body is in sympathetic. And usually like the behaviors that you might notice are, it's hard to slow down, like you said. I don't want to slow down. It's hard to slow down. It's difficult to relax. It's like you're always on the go. You have to be in control of external circumstances. You might see this with business. If you have a team, wanting to control everything, not trusting that the team's going to take care of it. This can play out in your relationships. This was big for me, like trying to control, like, I want it my way. This is how you do it. Especially like, I don't have a baby yet, but when you bring a baby in the mix, like, this is how we change a diaper. You got to do it, right? Like, that's not a sign that you're in this fight flight state.
So you're saying that when we're called control freaks, that's a sign. Okay.
It's like you're not able to stop. Okay. Yeah. Now, these are some behaviors, some thoughts that you might have is like the urgency thoughts. I have to do it now. If I slow down, everything's going to fall apart. There's no time. There's never enough time. I don't have enough time.
Right.
Those are thoughts that you are in that fight flight state. And the feelings that you might feel are anger, worry, frustration, agitation, fear. Fear is a big one, whether you know it or not. A lot of the people that I work with, they come to me because they are in fear of what might happen to them, right? Like if their health is not so good and they're feeling burned out, but I don't have time for this. Like I have to be healthy. I have to have the energy.
Right.
And so fear, these panic attacks, so anxiety, burnout, urgency, these are all signs that you could be in that fight flight state. And then the sensations that you might feel is that heart beating faster, your breathing is heavier or short and shallow. Yeah. Sweaty palms. Like, I know that like everyone's been there, right? Like you're about to give a presentation or something and you're like, oh my gosh. And you start breathing heavy and you have to go to the bathroom. It's like, this is our internal system kicking in saying what you're about to do is not safe. Yeah. When it is. As soon as it's over, you're like, oh, that wasn't bad. Yeah. Great.
Why does our body respond like that? I mean, public speaking really is. Public speaking is a huge fear. Yeah. And I know when I first started getting into public speaking, I had that. I was like, oh no. But why does our body do that if we're safe?
Yeah. Fear of rejection. Fear of failure. Fear of looking stupid, saying the wrong thing, messing it up.
It's what the mind is making at me.
Absolutely. All of the time. All of the time. And that's why doing the deep inner work of, and if you are responding from a trauma response, the mind is thinking like, this is life or death. Yeah. This is dangerous. I have to get this so. But yeah, with speaking gigs and like presentations, it's a big deal. And that's what, and a lot of this can stem from, think back to childhood. When we were in a classroom, we raised our hand. Maybe someone said the wrong answer and then somebody made fun of you, or it can go all the way back to that. Like you would not believe when I'm walking someone through, when we're rewiring the mind and I ask, like, bring up what's the first image that comes up. A lot of times it's like in a classroom setting. Felt not smart enough. Yes. Yeah.
And that, I guess that goes back to your biography becomes your biology. And when we were little kids, we didn't have some of the emotional intelligence tools or even any of that training. I mean, I know in the world we grew up in, it was like feelings are bad, don't feel. Until Brene Brown came out and told us feelings were acceptable, be vulnerable. And then it was like this whole, I think, eye-opening, conscious up-leveling journey that I think a lot of the world has been on right now.
Yeah. And a lot of high-achieving people had parents who wanted them to be high achievers out of a good place. Like a lot of parents live vicariously through their children, right? Like, I want you to be the best. But I mean, really, it's like, what are you causing that child to think about themselves? Or, I don't know. I think there's a balance, right? It's to be a balance.
Yeah. So you have a list of 5 things that are helpful for regulating the nervous system that aren't overbearing and that business leaders and entrepreneurs can do. And I know that when I was burning the candle at both ends, building a bunch of businesses and started working with you, some of the things that were presented, I'm like, there's no way I can integrate all of this into my day. Where I'm at in my life, this is not possible. But I started just doing like 30 to 60 seconds of something, which was for me a reset breath work thing that worked really well because it was a handy tool in my toolbox that didn't take a lot of time. So as everybody is listening to this, don't feel that you have to do everything yesterday, but these are some tools that can help with regulating our nervous system as we are still pushing hard.
Yeah. So the first one I would say is create routines. Routines are so important. Do you agree with that, Staci?
Yeah, I mean, I have a motto, if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist. And I have a lot of structure around my morning routines and my evening routines. And sometimes as a business person, I cannot necessarily control what happens between my morning routine and my evening routine because chaos can ensue. But if I at least can stay rooted in my morning and rooted in my evening, I find that I'm a better leader in the chaos.
Yes. So that's what I was going to start with next is a morning routine. How you start your morning is everything. If you start from a dysregulated place, from this fight, flight, urgency place.
It's like rolling out of bed going, oh crap, and grabbing your phone and freaking out and responding to emails. Yeah.
Pulling out the blue light. Yeah. It's like urgency, urgency, urgency. Try not to do that. I would say creating a morning routine where you can get up, get sunlight, connect to your body. So our nervous system's like 3 things. Number 1 is context, to understand, what am I getting here? Like, what is my day going to look like? Can you look at your, like, what do you have scheduled? Sometimes it's helpful for people to do that the night before.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can cause people to go into overthinking at night and disrupt sleep. So to each their own. I always say, figure out what routine works best for you. But our nervous system's like context. The second thing is choice. So if you're someone who, which this is me, I don't like to have a super rigid morning routine. I ask myself, what do I desire today? Like, what do I need today that's going to help me thrive? And I usually, like, if I can listen, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do some breathing. I'm going to sit out in the sunlight and I'm going to do a quick 10-minute meditation. Boom. So it can be a quick morning routine, but the point is you want to feel that grounded connection to you. God, you know, if you're a spiritual person, I am, that helps me set the tone of like, okay, I'm not in this alone. I'm always supported.
Yeah.
And it also helps me get clear on like connecting to who I am, which didn't happen until later in life, like knowing how to do that. And then the third thing our nervous system really likes is connection. So this is connecting to your body, which I love. Even like EFT tapping is a really good tool to do, but connecting to your body with breath is by far my favorite. Really feeling, and we're going to do an exercise here in a little bit, but really being able to like feel your breath in your body, noticing like, where do I feel tight? I started doing this face massage stuff, which is so relaxing to my nervous system because you're working a lot on the neck.
Yeah.
Crazy. The neck and like the chest, all of this area. And I'm like, oh my gosh, after doing it, I feel so relaxed.
Yeah. Especially for people who sit at the computer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is causing us wrinkles. So
if you're not doing it for any other reason, do it to not have wrinkles.
That's why I'm doing it. But anyway, connection to the body is what I'm getting at. So important, connection to yourself, connection to higher power. That would be the first thing. How can you create a routine? And then also at night, if you're someone who wants to get on your phone late at night, check your email, don't let that be a part of your routine. If possible, like find something that's more grounding, drink some warm tea, connect with a loved one, maybe have some sexy time.
I want to just, I feel like we're like, Megan, you're great at the nervous system intangible, like the ethereal, the energy side of it. But your 3 points about context, choice, and connection is very true just in business operations. So I have found with my team and with all the teams that I have organized and worked with that people need context. They need to know where they show up in an assembly line so that they know the handoffs for systematic execution. Because in order to scale your business, you have to be able to create duplicatable, repeatable ways of doing things. And in order for us to get other people to do them, they have to know where they show up in the assembly line. And then people do like choice. If they don't have choice, they're a robot. And if they're a robot, we should just use AI. We don't need a human being doing that function. So what is better is to have a human being using AI to create more operational efficiencies. And then connection. I was just reading something about when somebody goes to jail, and that's already bad enough. But to punish them even more, if they are out of line in jail, they go to isolation.
Solitary confinement. Yeah.
Solitary confinement. And so they're in isolation. And I have found that if I don't have like a buddy system with my team, it's harder because they want to buddy up with me. And as a leader, it's hard for me to be buddy with everybody on the team. And because then I'm like being everyone's second brain and their thought partner. And it's challenging because I can't hold a container for all of that. But when they have somebody else that they can connect with and bond with on a similar project, it calms their nervous system. So those 3 points are so good for just ourselves, but also operationally and within our teams, it's really helpful in how we structure our day-to-day operations.
Yeah, and you're creating safety within your environment, within their nervous system. So like that's going to create a happier team. And that is so important. Like you and I talk about that all the time.
Yes.
So just know that like that's what you're doing for them is you're helping their nervous system feel relaxed, feel like this is a safe environment that I can be myself. I can come to you with questions, and just y'all can grow together.
Right.
Because if they feel like it's threatening, it's not good for anybody.
Right.
So that would be the first thing. Come up with some routines, whether that's morning, night, if you need to do both, beautiful. The second thing would be proper breathing and posture. So number one, like look at how you're sitting. When you're sitting at the desk, a lot of us are sitting at the desk. I love the stand-up desk too, because that can be so good just for movement and your posture can be really good. But number one, like when you're breathing, if you're hunched over, you cannot open the diaphragm, which is one of the most important parts of our breathing. It's not, people think of the lungs, really it's the diaphragm. So posture is number one. If you can roll your shoulders back, and then what do I mean by proper breathing? In through the nose. So not through the mouth. You can exhale through the mouth, but you always want to inhale through the nose. You want to make sure it's slow from the diaphragm. So breathing in, sometimes you can place your hands on your ribs just for practice. I know you're not going to be doing this when you're working, but for practice and so that your body can start to get memory with how it is to breathe properly, placing hands on ribs. When you breathe in, you'll feel the ribs expand, and then the breath should come up to the chest. And then you exhale out, letting the exhale be longer. And then you find your own pace. So if you're breathing 12 breaths or less within a minute, that's a good number to show that you're properly breathing. It's not rapid, it's not short. And then you want to make sure it's a full breath by breathing in from the diaphragm, from the chest. Most people, whenever I'm working with breath work with them and just monitoring how they're breathing, they say, I'm a chest, I breathe through my chest and my mouth's open a lot, or I just stop breathing, meaning they hold their breath.
Yeah, I think I do that.
Yeah, especially if you're like, if you're doing something that feels a little unsettling, the go-to, like your reaction is to hold the breath because it's like, oh, what is this? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
So that would be number two. Proper breathing and posture. Number three would be to have a grounding breakfast. So this can be part of your routine. What I mean by grounding is you want protein. So increase your protein, increase your fats, and minimal carbohydrates. So skip the oatmeal unless you put protein powder in it. Eggs, have your bacon, have some chicken sausage, have some fruit, have some avocado. And that's going to help to ground your energy. And even more grounding is reaching for the red fruit. So raspberries or strawberries, it actually helps your root chakra. This is getting the spiritual side, but it helps to ground your energy. So grounding breakfast, so important. Looking at getting sunlight. If you can get sunlight first thing in the morning, this helps to power your circadian rhythm, which is your internal alarm clock. And what happens is your melatonin will go down and your cortisol will go up, which is what we want to be the highest first thing in the morning. And if you aren't getting that sunlight first thing in the morning, you might get sleepy. You might also, your sleep might be thrown off later in the night because they have an inverse relationship. So if you're having sleep problems, definitely get morning sunlight. But I recommend everyone getting morning sunlight at least for a few minutes. It doesn't have to be sunny. It's just natural light. Okay. So if you can have your breakfast out there, do some breathing, do a meditation, that's like a perfect routine. Sleep would be part of number 3. So just having the nutrition in your lifestyle down.
I'm curious because I feel like sleep is some of the sleep and working out, sleep, working out, and eating are some of the 3 things that I think entrepreneurs let slide when things start getting really, really chaotic.
Yeah.
Sleep being one of them, and not necessarily purely because they want it to, but like they're getting woken up by an idea 2-3 in the morning, and then they just get up and they start working. What are signs of good sleep hygiene, and how do you create? I mean, I understand, morning routine, evening routine, good breakfast, all of that, but like how would someone know if they had good sleep hygiene or not?
So if you're waking up feeling tired, you're probably not hitting. Well, I mean, there could be a lot of reasons why you're not awake. You could have thyroid issue. There's a lot of different reasons. You can need different minerals, but that's one sign. Like, are you falling asleep easily? Are you waking up in the middle of the night a lot? You could be having a cortisol spike, blood sugar dysregulation in the middle of the night, and then if you're waking up tired.
Yeah.
Every hour before midnight is equal to 2, and this all has to do with the sun, so our circadian rhythm. So between the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 p.m., your physical body is restoring. Think hormones, think gut, think
2 p.m., 10 p.m. to 2 p.m. or 10 p.m. to 2 a.m.?
Oh, sorry, did I say p.m.? Yeah.
Yeah.
A.m.
Okay.
10 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Okay. I was like, wow, our bodies are amazing. We're in restoration mode all day long.
Well, yeah, while you're sleeping. And then 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is when your brain is restoring. Yeah. So if you are waking up, if you're waking up around like 2 or 3 in the morning, I immediately think that there's probably like a cortisol spike. Even if you're having that good idea, the good idea can wait in the morning if you're getting good sleep. Like if sleep has been, you know what I mean? You shouldn't be waking up that much.
Yeah.
So yeah, ideally, if you can go to sleep at 10 o'clock at night, 10 p.m., that is going to be like equivalent to 4 hours of sleep, rather than if you if you went to bed at 10 and woke up at 6, that's 8 hours. It's really like you're getting more than that because those 2 extra hours, and that has to do with the circadian rhythm. It's different if you go to sleep at midnight and wake up at 8. You're not going to feel the same. So test it. I always tell people, test it out. Don't believe me? Test it out.
Does this have anything to do? So I started being like, okay, I want my schedule to be a certain time every morning that I got up. And then with the dang time changes that we still insist on doing, I was like, okay, this doesn't work because the sun isn't up. And then I cannot have my sunrise in the sun in the morning. So I'm like, could my routine be 30 minutes before the sunrise? I wake up, and then like it just shifts based on whatever.
Do a meditation first thing in the morning, and then get something after. Yeah, absolutely.
And then that would shift though, like what time you go to bed at, what time it's not like 6 a.m. But I find what you just said about your brain restoring from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. fascinating, because I think that's one of the things that I business owners, we rely on. We rely heavily on our cognitive functioning and our intuition. And those two together are what I think make really powerful entrepreneurs, is when we can integrate those two. And sometimes we sacrifice certain things and we don't even realize we're doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would say you also have to, whether you realize it or not, you have to rely on your body too. Like really, like you might not think about it right now because everything seems all peachy as of now. But when you start to get symptoms and then you ignore those symptoms, the symptoms become, I like this analogy that I always hear from this business coach that I love. His name's James Wedmore, but he's like, God first throws a pebble. Mm-hmm. And the pebble is kind of like a symptom. Mm-hmm. And then if you're not getting it, he's going to then throw a rock. And then if you're not getting it, I mean, that can come in the form of like you get sick. Mm-hmm. If you're not listening, it's like a boulder. Yeah. And it's like, whoa, life-changing event. Right. And it's like, let's don't wait for the boulder. Let's like take action and take preventative care. This is why I'm so passionate about holistic medicine,
And whether you believe in God or not, it doesn't, I don't think that is even something that matters for this conversation, because we're energy. We all know we have energy. And then our energy gets fragmented when we have a lot of energy loops open, which I know, Megan, you're going to touch on. It also gets fragmented when we don't get enough sleep. All of those things like fragment our energy. And so, like you're saying, the pebble is a notice to saying, hey, your energy is out of alignment. Your tooth is aching, you're getting headaches, you're having trouble sleeping, you're not eating, like you're recognizing alerts in your energy system. And then when we ignore those alerts, then the boulder comes. And and that's our wake up call to realize, oh, I have energy and I'm a human still. Like I'm a human body I'm a human being that's supposed to be doing, not a human doing that's supposed to be being. Like we sometimes misprioritize.
Yeah, we're both.
Totally. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So bottom line, prioritize sleep. Exercise makes you powerful. Strength helps you with longevity. It's best for metabolic health. There's so many reasons. This could be another live that we talk about, but I'm just going back to what you mentioned about entrepreneurs usually push off the sleep and the exercise and the eating. Okay. So the last two parts that I was going to go over with these tools. Number 4 would be if you do block scheduling, which I think a lot of people do, right? Mm-hmm. To be intentional with in between the blocks to take an intentional regulating break. Mm. And what does this look like? It doesn't mean you have to take 30 minutes. You can go outside, you can put your feet on the ground, and you can breathe for 1 minute. Mm-hmm. You don't even have to go outside, but I love adding that in. It's like you're adding in an extra layer of something that our body really craves. Right. Nature. And that helps to regulate. Being outside in nature helps to regulate. But using the breath to just 1 minute, and my favorite breathing to change the biochemistry of the body is called the physiological sigh. This is one Staci loves. I love it too. Mm-hmm. If you want to change if you feel stressed, if you feel anxiety, if you want to change the biochemistry of your body, it's very simple. You breathe in, take a breath in. You want to do it? Let's just do it. Sure. I mean, since it's my favorite and I like doing it. I'll let you demonstrate it and I'll walk you through it. Okay, I'm going to close my eyes because that's how I do it. So, okay. Beautiful. Okay, so just exhale everything out. And then when you're ready, take a breath in through the nose. Pause. Breathe in again. It's going to be a little sip of air. And then exhale out with a sigh. Just like that. Yeah. Breathe in. Pause. Breathe in. Exhale out. And the sigh is important, you guys. Don't let go of the sigh. Breathe in. Pause. Breathe in. Exhale out. Let's just do 2 more times. Breathe in. Deep breath. Pause. Breathe in. Exhale out. Last one, deepest breath in. Pause. Breathe in. Exhale out. And now just keep your eyes closed and notice how the body feels. Notice how the mind feels. Notice how your breath feels. It might even feel a little easier to breathe right now. And then open your eyes when you're ready. And when you do that breathing on your break, if it's intentional, you can start to turn the dial to the next thing that you want to do. What I love adding to this is an intention. What's the next thing that you're going into? How do you need to be? How do you need to show up? What's the kind of mindset you need to have? Maybe it's a tough conversation with the team member. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're giving a presentation. Yes. If you can show the body that it's safe, you're changing the biochemistry, and you add the intention, it's a great break. Mm-hmm. And it takes about 30 seconds to do. Mm-hmm. And so I have incorporated this into my day between my meetings. So I use it like as a transition breath. And then I pair it with what you're talking about, Megan, which is an intention.
Like, I'm going into this next meeting, or I'm going into this next live or a podcast or whatever it is that I'm doing in the day. And somebody else is going to be on the other side of that screen that has their own energy, their own perspective, they're coming in with probably a dysregulated nervous system, unless they do all this work. But then to be able to show up and hold space in a very integrated way, but also not as a doormat and not as a taker.
Yeah.
Like, and I used to say a lot, and I probably need to bring this back, but when we went and COVID hit and everybody went virtual and there was a lot less in person, I had done this whole video about emotional hygiene. Because in workspaces, we know very well, like, hey, you got BO, or you should really do this. We can say that when we're close to humans. But like virtually, you don't really have that physical hygiene, but emotional hygiene is very, very much a thing. Because we've all had experiences where somebody just walks into a room or comes on Zoom and just dumps on you. And they dump their day, they dump how they're feeling, they're complaining. And it's like, I don't want to take all of this on me right now. And that's not mine to own. And so to be able to be in that space, not take on that energy, but also to hold space with a boundary for that person requires me as a leader to be very regulated. And sometimes when I'm dysregulated, what I'll do is I'll just be like, okay, I just want to like keep the peace. So I'm so sorry you're feeling like that. It's okay. I'll take it back. Like I'll handle it all for you so that you can be less stressed. But then that is not super helpful. We're disempowering the people around us, and we're not honoring our own self. And so I feel like the breath work, or this reset breath, transition breath that I use, helps me to be able to show up, but not take on the burden of somebody's emotions onto me.
Yeah. And you can do it for longer. If you have the time, do it. You can do it for 3 minutes. You can do it for 5 minutes. So know that you get to make it how you want it, and really tune in. And what I love to tell people is like, rate your stress from 0 to 10. If you're at a 10, you might need to do it for a little longer. So just tuning in is like the key thing. How am I feeling? How am I thinking?
Love it. What else do we want to share? Anything?
Did you want to go over? Well, do you want to talk about the energy cycles, or?
Sure. I don't know that I'm the expert on energy cycles. Well, the only thing I have started integrating is cycle syncing, which has been amazing. I love it.
Let's save cycles for a different live then, and we can talk about that.
Okay. Yeah.
With that, what about the business and plot twist that you wanted to talk about? I think that would be
yes. So I think a lot of plot twists have been happening lately in the world.
For sure.
We're waking up and we're like, I thought this was true. Oh, nope, that's not true. Yeah. So all kinds of plot twists, and business owners definitely have experienced this. And what do you do when what you thought was going to happen doesn't happen? And I have had a lot of plot twists, a lot of betrayals, a lot of trauma, a lot of plan A's that turned into executing plan Z. And it's like, what do you do in those moments? And first, when I didn't understand how to co-create with my nervous system, I invested a lot of time in my mind. And so I would go research, I would do contingency planning, I would write down all the facts, list out worst case scenario, list out 5 options. And I still do a ton of those types of exercises because they're helpful. But now what I've done is I've integrated into it more eyes closed time. And that could be a 10-minute meditation. It could be a breathwork session before I go into, and if anyone's read the book Traction by Gina Wickman and Mark C. Winters, they talk about IDS. So issue, discuss, solve. So identify the issue, discuss it, and solve it. And so when you're going there, if you don't have problems, then you probably don't have a business, because the essence of a business is solving problems. That's entrepreneurship. I identified a problem, I want to solve it, and I want to help people. So we're never going to get into a situation, it's very unlikely, that you don't have problems. And so the getting good at the art and the science of solving problems, I think, is the journey of entrepreneurship. And my journey has been that I solve all of the problems in business way better if I invest more time with my eyes closed. And Megan, I'm sure you can talk to this because it's probably a little bit more spiritual in nature. And didn't the Buddha say, or somebody say, that if I have a problem, I'll spend 4 hours meditating or something like that?
I haven't heard that one, but I'm sure he did.
Yeah, something like that. Somebody can fact check us. But yeah, for me, like the eyes closed time, I connect and dropped in a way to inner wisdom. And I'm not saying it's wisdom that's necessarily outside of myself. I think it's wisdom that has been integrated within. Some of it has been just the creator gave it to me. Some of it's been because I've read so many podcasts, I've done so many books, and I've invested in my education and I invested in my relationships, that the wisdom I need at the time will come to the surface if I can calm all the noise. And oftentimes sometimes I would try to solve my problems with the noise being so loud, like the radio is turned up in the world around me, and I'm trying to sit in the center of the chaos and solve a really, really big plot twist or problem. And when I remove myself from the noise and sit, then I can come back into the noise and almost organize the noise, if that makes sense. So Megan, you probably have facts and like more science behind it, but that has been my journey with really identifying the plot twist, then dropping into what is the root problem, dropping into myself, and then coming back and figuring out how to solve it.
Yeah. I mean, just to piggyback on that, I think personally, every entrepreneur, I mean, it's the hardest self-development work that anyone will go through, is being a business owner, an entrepreneur. Like it wakes you up to what you've either been avoiding or you're ready to work through here while you're living.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I think that it's necessary as a business owner and an entrepreneur to close your eyes and look within and connect to your intuition and connect to the wisdom that is coming from, wherever you believe. But I think that, like, for me, it comes back to what is the narrative playing in the mind, and also having the eyes closed experiences is regulating your nervous system, because when you're going within, you're finding that safety, because usually your breath will start to regulate. You can notice your thoughts more clearly. You can notice, well, no wonder, like, here's a solution, So if you're not, if you're looking for the answer externally all of the time, I think it makes it more harder, it makes it more challenging, but then also it could take longer.
Yeah.
If you're not doing it.
I feel like a lot of my biggest regrets and mistakes in business are not listening to my intuition. Like, I had gut knowings that I knew I should have done it a certain way. And then I thought, oh, somebody's smarter than me, or they're wiser, or they're more experienced, and I did it that way. And then it turns out that I should have just listened to myself.
Yeah. But with that, every time that we have made a decision that we went against our gut, there was a lesson to be learned that made us become more wise and stronger and be equipped to know what to do next time, right? And I always like to ask the question, like, well, how, and this reminds me of a client that I was messaging back this week. I was like, she didn't get a job that she thought she was going to get, and breaking up with, the love of her life. Anyway, I'm like, okay, how is this working for you? I always like to look at that, because even when we set our expectation on something, this new deal, this new client, whatever it is with business, this is going to work out perfectly. It's like when it doesn't work out like we expected it to, it's still working out.
Yes.
Just not what we expected, but it can be better than what we expected.
Right. I feel like you've helped me with this a lot, because I think, I mean, going back to being called control freaks, we want things to be a certain way. And when they're not, it's like we did something wrong, or somebody else did something wrong. That's why we're off course. And what it really, I think it's the way it's supposed to be. Like, that person was supposed to lie to me. That thing was supposed to happen in the market. This was how it was supposed to be in this space-time plane we're in. And there's a lesson in here for me if I can approach this scenario without criticism, without complaining, and without judgment.
Yeah. I think something we can both relate with is like rejection.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A lot of business people can, like, it's not rejection, it's redirection. I know that that's very famous. It's cliche, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like that person, that situation was not supposed to land.
It will still suck. It will still absolutely suck and feel uncomfortable.
and work through those emotions. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, you're naturally going to feel that because we're human and we're supposed to feel emotion.
Right.
But then can you regulate your nervous system and move forward with more clarity and extract the wisdom from what you learned from that and still move forward without holding on to resentment or grudges, because all that does is drain your energy. It leaks energy like nothing else. And this goes to with business and relationships, everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really integration. We have to integrate all of the things that come at us into how can I integrate this and make it productive? Mm-hmm. And not productive in more doing, but just make it a productive experience where I learn something, I grow, I'm more integrated, I'm more rooted, I'm more aware of my identity. I think sometimes in all of this journey in business and in life, these crossroads can be like identity crises, where we're reconciling within ourselves how are we supposed to show up, how are we supposed to respond, how am I supposed to be a leader in this way. And in business, you're continually encountering things that you've never encountered before, and so you're going to have an initial visceral reaction that may or may not be the appropriate one for the experience that's in front of you. And that's why this whole conversation, I think, is so helpful, because it's teaching us to be connected with our nervous system. So when those things do cross our path, we can be so aware of our own energy that we can know whether it's in alignment or it's not, and make better choices in our doing.
And what I want to say, this is on topic of what you just mentioned. We are meant, with our nervous system, we are meant to go from different stages. And we didn't go over all of the states of the nervous system, but we're meant to vacillate in between. Okay. And what I like to say, and I've learned this from my mentor that I learned about breathing as a functional breathwork practitioner, it creates a flexible nervous system. So I want y'all to think, everyone who's listening, like, that's the goal, to create a flexible nervous system. Say you get the next deal or the next thing that you're working on. Yes, there can be excitement, and really you have to learn how to emotionally regulate that. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
But then that feels expansive.
Yes.
It's normal to then go into contraction. It's normal, to then go into the oh shit. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And so knowing that about our nervous system, that's the work. That's the work. Like, when you're in the oh shit moment, how can you regulate? How can you self-soothe? Mm-hmm. How can you start to rewire the mind, reprogram the mind, not from reacting from trauma, but responding from regulation, so that you can show your nervous system that, hey, this big deal that I just got, we got this, and there's more to come. Mm-hmm.
This has been fun with you.
Yeah, I loved it. So fun. I wish we could see our audience.
I know. I'm just here talking with you. I like that. Megan and I are going to start doing lives once a month. Some of them will be just us talking like this. Others will be, we might do a full hour-long breathwork session because so many people need to just calm themselves and know what that feels like. We may do one she did one session with me, which I thought was really awesome, about envisioning. So envisioning my future, envisioning things. And so we could do one on vision casting. We can do one on getting shit done. Different things that we can train our nervous systems to get into the state of whatever activity it is that we're about ready to do. So we may do some like that. We may do some where I talk about business operations like architect, build, operate, process mapping, KPIs, dashboard, and then Megan brings in her wisdom on how to get your team's environment and the nervous system of the whole organization in line to achieving it, which she's done for my team. So we aren't 100% consistent on it, but one session that we did a breathwork session, just me and one other person, and we ended up getting all of our, I think it was like 20 or 30 things on our list to talk through, and we knocked them out in like 60 minutes. So yeah, fun stuff. So we'll be sharing different thoughts on how we can bring all of ourselves into our organizations and also create environments where our teams can thrive as well in terms of regulating their nervous systems the more we're regulated as leaders. And sometimes we're not regulated as leaders, and that has an impact in our organization. It certainly has in mine. And some of that is health related. And you have to get your hormones and your biology right before, in parallel to also just having these grounding and rooting practices as we go.
Yeah, it helps you get to where you're going so much better.
So if you guys want to be on the notification list for when we're doing our next live, you can send an email to scale@organizedtoscale.com. That's scale@organizedtoscale.com. And we will invite you. We're going to do these once a month, maybe more, maybe impromptu. I don't know. But Megan and I are going to do a lot of business stuff together because has helped me personally in my business, and we hope it will help you too. So thanks, everyone. Bye.